Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 487 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for December 10th, 2017. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Intel faces new competition, EA begins to respond to backlash, and NiceHash deals with a digital heist. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, our homes on Stitcher, or, of course, our live stream platforms, livestream.com, livestream.com, Periscope, Mixer, or Twitch, or, of course, on our apps, PLUGHITZLive.com/apps. Thank you for making us a part of your day. This here is F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, the flagship show on the PLUGHITZ Live family of content. We are live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, give or take, for about an hour, and we discuss the news of the week. And there are two ways that you can join us. The first is on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can go to f5live.tv/join us, and from there you can see us live and chat with us in the studio as we talk about our topics, which we love. Avram and I love to hear what you have to say about our topics. In particular, we like to hear about the Pilch Point, which will be on in just a little bit. We're actually going to do two segments back-to-back that are kind of related. Avram's going to be talking about the apples-to-apples comparison of Ryzen 5 Mobile and Intel Core i5 Mobile, which we've been excited about. We wanted to do last week, but it's okay. And if you can't join us live, that's all right. You can go to PLUGHITZLive.com/subscribe, and from there you can subscribe to all of our shows, including this one and the Pilch Point, our special events feed, which will feature CES in the very near future, and all of our other series there as well. And with that, we might have a little bit of technical difficulties tonight, and I want to apologize, but I think that's the spiel. Let's see if Avram is able to hear me at all. Are you able to
I can. Yes, you've just been coming and going a little bit.
Okay. Well, hopefully...
sometimes you sound like you're really, really like 1,000 miles away, and sometimes you sound like you're on the microphone. So
interesting. Our internet connection here in the studio this evening is questionable at best. For example, I know that Avram is sending me messages and I'm not receiving them. So I can hear you typing and I'm not getting anything. So the internet is questionable at best. We will do what we can. I see that even one of our live targets is not working tonight. So it's going to be an interesting show. We will do what we can. I guess with that, Avram, how has your week been?
All right, pretty busy. Got our Ryzen versus AMD story live. That was very cool. Lots of neat stuff going on Laptop Mag and Tom's Guide. And really excited to talk about that and to talk about the Qualcomm announcement from this week, because it's all leading up to a very exciting CES and a very exciting 2018 with more competition for Intel and more competition in the compute PC space than we've seen in a while.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about it both on and off air, and we're really excited to see, competition breeds new ideas, and lack of competition puts us in the kind of rut that we've been in the PC space for a little while as far as processing power. When AMD was a competitor, we saw the two of them try and leapfrog each other constantly, and we got better and better and better and better processors, and then AMD kind of went, I don't know what we're doing, and things slowed down quite a bit. So it'll be good to see some competition in that space. And I can't wait to see some of the stuff we're going to see at CES. I want to see that Lenovo Qualcomm computer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be cool. Obviously, we haven't heard much about that. But, yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I think I anticipate learning a lot more about the latest Intel chips and the latest AMD chips and latest stuff from Qualcomm on Windows. So neat stuff. Can't wait to talk about it. And I know there's a lot to talk about even tonight.
Yes, indeed. And I guess with that, since we do have two really kind of big stories at the top of the show, uh, we should get down to it in just a minute. But I think we should start by reminding people that next week will be a normal show, and then in 2 weeks and 3 weeks, we will have a show on a different night. We will announce next week what night we're going to do that on. Avram and I are going to figure out what schedule works best for us. Obviously, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve are not nights that anybody wants to watch us, and we don't really want to talk about this stuff on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve either. And so we're going to shift our schedule around a little bit. And so next week, we'll tell you exactly what that schedule is going to look like, and Avram and I will figure out what that schedule is going to look like. And then following that, after the 29th or 30th or whatever it happens to be, our next show will be from Las Vegas as the CES pre-show, either on the 6th or 7th. We will figure out what night works best for our broadcast, but we will keep you up to date on that as well. And then we will be at CES for a week. So lots and lots of weird scheduling over the next couple of weeks. So we will definitely keep you updated on what that looks like. And I guess since we have a lot to talk about, let's get started.
Great.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a new computer, a new Xbox, whether it be the Xbox One S or the One X, you're looking for a Surface, you're looking for Windows Mixed Reality, or even the HTC Vive, or you're looking for some great apps for the computer that you already have or are getting during the holidays, the Microsoft Store, the redesigned Microsoft Store has it all. Some of the best apps, games, computers, phones, all available by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. And before we get into a little bit of Microsoft news, I find it interesting that Microsoft is selling the Galaxy S8 and Note 8 in their stores now. Just throwing that out there. So it doesn't even just have to be Microsoft product. Samsung phones are available from the Microsoft Store too. Anyway, now we're going to talk about Microsoft, and we're going to talk about it, or Microsoft-related stuff, quite a bit. So the first is, well, I guess Nifty Gifties and the Pilch Point, we're going to talk about some competition for Intel. First, we're going to talk about Qualcomm, which is not probably the company that anybody was expecting me to say just then, but that's okay. Because about a year ago, in fact, almost exactly a year ago, tomorrow, Microsoft showed off the first prototype of Windows 10 on ARM using a Qualcomm 835 processor. They explained how it all was going to work, that there was a virtual processor in the middle that was going to translate ARM processes to x86 or x64 processes and back and forth so that you could run desktop apps on an ARM chip, which is very different from Windows RT, which required Windows Store apps. And that was, except for there were about 22 ARM compiled apps, including Office, that you could use on the Windows RT that were classic desktop apps. But other than that, it was just the Windows Store. And at that point, apps in the Windows Store were low. There were not a lot of the important ones in the store. Now, though, we're seeing full Windows 10. Interestingly, Windows 10S for both of the computers that were shown off this week. But that still means, full Windows 10. available on an ARM chip. Now, of course, we know that the reason for this is the always-on capability. That's what they've been talking about. And the Qualcomm chips, theoretically, are supposed to bring increased battery life. Obviously, once this guy gets a hold of some of these laptops, we'll know for sure. And hopefully we'll be able to do a new apples to apples on that.
Yeah. So Qualcomm was, actually came by our office a couple of weeks ago, and they brought the Asus and the HP laptops with them.
Awesome.
So we had a chance to see them. The HP one actually looks pretty nice. It's what's it? Is it the Elite X2?
I think it's the NVX2.
NVX2. I keep getting confused. Okay.
That's okay.
So we've seen it. We saw it. It looks nice. It's kind of it looks a lot like a Surface Pro competitor, in that it's primarily a tablet, and then it has it's a tablet first detachable with a included keyboard, keyboard cover. And they claim that it lasts 20 hours on a charge. Well, that would revolutionize things, because the real problem with the Surface Pro is that the battery life is really, really weak.
Yeah.
Like normally it's at best on our test 7 hours, and that's on our version 1 test, which is very low brightness and just web surfing. So if you're doing a lot of important stuff, you won't be too happy with that. Now, what we don't know is how the performance is going to be on these. We know it's not going to be as good,
right?
As Intel. I mean, like we had a talk with them, and it's not. I don't think that they expect to be taking on, to be really, beating an 8th gen Core processor,
right,
or a Ryzen processor in terms of crunching numbers and things. But could it be good enough? Could it be good enough to do productivity work? To use Office and things, and surf the web, and the things that 99% of people do 99% of the time. Probably, yeah. Let's see.
Right.
I'm concerned a little bit about the storage, because they're not using standard PCIe storage. I think they said something like it's UFS storage. Is that? They're still what they're using for storage is not. I don't know if it's going to achieve the kind of speeds that we normally see. But we'll have to see. Really, the proof's going to be in the pudding. We're not going to see these things. It doesn't sound like, when we talked to HP about this, they're not even expecting, I don't think this is even going to come out until, it's not even going to come out until the spring. So,
okay.
So I don't know. Maybe by the spring they mean March. I don't know. But my guess is we're not going to see these available for sale for at least 2 more months.
Okay.
Now, the HP one of the guys from Qualcomm said he'd been using it for like a day and a half, and it had not, it still had almost half the battery left. So we'll have to see, how that is. One of my biggest concerns about this, though, is the promise of it is really fantastic, in that supposedly your computer will be quote unquote always on, and sort of like your phone is.
Right.
So in theory, what they told me, and this is what I really am, fingers crossed, hoping to see, but I don't know, is let's say you have Outlook open and you close the lid, your laptop goes into effectively a sleep state. But when you open it again an hour later, all the email that you had been receiving in the last hour was already downloaded, because just like on your phone, which downloads data while it is asleep,
right,
your laptop will too. Now, to my understanding, Connected Standby on Windows doesn't do that today. So, or what they were saying is that it doesn't have to go into as deep of a sleep as an Intel laptop goes.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah. It's it still qualifies under connected standby as far as Windows is concerned, but it's kind of a new state in reality. That's what I was reading. It's they're still going to give it the same name, but it is a new state within Windows that only exists on certain hardware.
Yeah, so that's what I want to see because that's the biggest that's the biggest issue I would like to see solved is having your connectivity continue when your laptop is closed.
Yeah.
And not having to have it because this is I mean maybe this is a very particular problem, but you probably had this problem at CES. You're uploading a giant video or something to to YouTube or to your server or whatever. Then you're waiting in line at a taxi stand and you have to get into the taxi. And so you close the lid and oh man, now my upload is stopped and
and in a bizarre state.
Yeah. And then when you open it up again, unfortunately, the way that most upload things work is they don't resume from that state either, which is extremely annoying. So you've really lost it. Whereas now what I used to do a lot, but this was kind of dicey, was I would just set my laptop not to go to sleep when I closed the lid. And, and I would close the lid and I would, get into the cab or whatever, or walk around the whatever, and hopefully it would be uploading while it was closed in my bag. But it would get hot in there and, I'd open it up and the laptop was burning hot. Yeah. Sometimes it would disconnect and I didn't know it. So one of the things that they have going too is that theirs is going to be all of their laptops are going to have 4G LTE built in.
Yes. Yeah, and it's supposed to have a because of the way the radio in the Qualcomm chipset works, apparently the handoff from Wi-Fi to LTE and back again is supposed to be smooth like either an Android or a Windows phone, not choppy the way an iPhone or a regular Windows laptop with LTE built in usually goes.
Right, because you don't want it to be where you're uploading something and it hands off and then it says disconnected and you lose your upload or your download.
Yeah, exactly. Which obviously we see even on the Surface 4G version when it goes from LTE to Wi-Fi because the chipsets are so different. But the way the Qualcomm 835 chipset works, apparently the handoff is supposed to be as close to seamless as possible.
Well, I mean, that's good. I think one of the remaining questions, of course, is whether or not people are going to spring for the LTE. I mean, it's going to come with the LTE radio, but whether or not carriers are going to do anything to make this more compelling. Because, right now, if you get a laptop with an LTE radio in it, no matter what carrier you're on, you're probably going to be paying at least $10 a month extra to get data for that laptop versus, hey, wait a second, why don't I just try to use the tethering on my phone? And in some cases, you pay $10 a month extra for tethering, so maybe it would even out. But in other cases, you don't have to, or there's, so that's a lot of, I mean, if you're a frequent business traveler, great. But if you're a frequent business traveler, then you may have a business notebook with this about 4G LTE already in it, and your company is paying for it, whatever. But the cost of an incremental more stuff on my bill every month is not very appealing. And I think one thing is that these laptops are not designed for business, although a business could buy them. But so far, Qualcomm has not. I mean, they said, hey, at some point we're definitely interested in, appealing to business, but there's no, we don't know anything about there being a Qualcomm ThinkPad or a Qualcomm EliteBook or something. So, businesses are probably business users are probably the ones who need this the most,
Right.
and that's not their first target.
Right. Which is obviously is a little su- surprising, or maybe not. Maybe they're starting. Maybe they're trying to start with just testing the waters with consumers, or who knows what their exact plans are. But yeah, it does seem like it would be business customers who would be their ideal market, and yet no. That's not what we're seeing.
Yeah, because most consumers I know do not. I mean, maybe this would change their lifestyle, so to speak, their laptop lifestyle.
Sure.
But most consumers I know do not leave the house, do not take their laptop everywhere and expect it to be connected everywhere. That's what their phone is for. And, you know, I think it would be cool to be able to treat, I mean, there are many people in business who treat their laptops that way, but I don't know if you're going to change the, laptop lifestyle of consumers such that their laptop's going to replace their phone,
Right.
or going to be used alongside their phone as just to do consumery things like like shop or check the email or whatever. Like,
Sure.
I take my laptop with me somewhere. It's because I need to get work done, and believe me, you can't really get work, no matter what people say, you can't really get work done as well on your phone as you can on a real PC. But
That is for sure.
people who are not needing to get work done wherever they go, um, you know, they're not necessarily going to see this as particularly the 4G portion of it as particularly compelling, I think. But
I think so too, but obviously only time can tell on that particular front.
yeah,
You and I may end up being surprised. Consumers may get super excited about it. Who knows?
maybe the other thing though that probably Microsoft, I don't know whose fault this is doing to shoot this project in the foot is launching it on Windows 10s. I mean, that's such a bad idea. I mean, the whole point of this was that it can run any Windows program.
Uh-huh.
So what do? You ship it out of the box with an operating system that can't run any Windows program.
Uh-huh.
Now, people can upgrade it to Windows 10 Pro for free, which I highly recommend that everybody does. There's no logical reason on earth to use Windows 10s. Um, Microsoft says that Windows 10 is faster and cleaner, but their version of faster and cleaner is because you didn't install any software. So, if you want regular Windows to be faster and cleaner, don't run software, I guess. But the point of this, that what's really impressive about this is that you can run more than Windows Store apps on this processor.
Right.
So the fact that they're launching it with an operating system that only runs Windows Store apps and that was the knock on Windows RT, which was the last time they tried to do a partnership with Qualcomm to run Windows, is a huge mistake. What they're basically doing is they're saying it can do one thing and then shipping it out of the box, not doing it.
Now, to be fair, Windows 10s runs apps installed from the Microsoft Store. Though that doesn't disqualify desktop apps, but they just have to be distributed through the Microsoft Store, which includes iTunes. Like there's a lot of desktop software available in the Microsoft Store now. So it's not the same level of restriction that RT was, to be fair.
I think though that Office you still need Pro. Do you not, or can you run regular Office 365?
That's a good question. I don't know if you can install both versions from the store. Obviously, I know that the light version is available, but I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if the full version is available from the store. Obviously, I have not personally used S, but I know that RT came with the desktop Office. I don't think that's the case here, but I just...
There's a reason why it's Windows 10 S, because S is the letter that comes between R and T.
Oh no. Oh no. That was good. That was frightening though, because it's true.
Yes.
If you search for Word in the Microsoft Store, the first thing that comes up is Office 365, and it says shop on Microsoft.com. So that probably means that it doesn't qualify as coming from the store necessarily, but that doesn't mean that it's not also disqualified from install restrictions. I would have to try it to know for sure, because it is definitely a weird situation, because the Microsoft Store.com or Windows Store.com that used to be where all the apps were URL'd doesn't exist anymore. It now all goes through Microsoft.com/yourlanguage/store, which is the same place that Office comes from. So I don't know the answer. It may be that if it's installed from Microsoft.com, it may also be excluded from the restrictions. I don't know. It is an interesting question, though. It seems like of all things for them to restrict, Office would be the worst. Even for S, which was originally intended for students, it seems like it would be a bad idea to prevent students from installing Office.
Yeah, also, they're not marketing these laptops, these Qualcomm laptops, as being exclusively for students.
Right. The S seems to no longer stand for student. It seems to, I don't know what it seems to. It was what it was originally intended for, but that obviously went away almost immediately.
It stands for crippleware. I mean, there's no benefit to the user, whether you're a student or not, to having Windows 10 S. It's like, hey, here's your Windows, and by the way, you can only run Edge. You can't run any browser you want. You can only run things to the Microsoft Store, which a lot of apps do not appear in. So, and we claim that it's faster, but the reason that it's faster is because you can't run the apps you want to run. Well, and then it's a free upgrade to get rid of Windows 10 S. So Microsoft is hoping that people will not realize or consider that there's a problem, run Edge because they really want people to run Edge, and download things to the App Store because that's how they make some money. So, they're hoping that people use Windows 10 S because it's good for Microsoft's bottom line. But but they've never shown a real benefit to the user.
I just asked Microsoft, and they told me you can absolutely install Office 365 on Windows 10 S. So, that's the fun about doing this show live. I just verified them with them while we were talking. Anyway, yeah, if you were a middle school or a high school, and you were trying to keep the computers that you owned secure, I see where Windows 10 S comes in. But if you're an individual with a computer, yeah, I'm no thanks. Not interested. I'm totally with you. I can see certain places within the education market where the concept makes sense, but in general, yeah, I think it's a generally silly concept, and it bothers me to no end that that's what comes on the Surface laptops, because that seems bizarre beyond any reasoning. Um, all right, so obviously we don't know a whole lot on the performance. We haven't. You've gotten to see them, but we haven't been able to put them through any kind of tests yet. Hopefully we'll see after the third one is officially announced and shown off at CES. Hopefully you guys will be able to start getting your hands on them. We'll be able to start seeing some tests come out of these. I'm really curious on battery and performance, obviously, the two big things. the big up and the big down on
battery performance and how many things actually work with a connected standby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. See if you can do a big upload through WordPress or something like that and close the lid, go from Wi-Fi to LTE and then LTE to Wi-Fi and see if it keeps going. Yeah, that would be a great set of tests. Yeah, I want to see that too. I was wrong on my initial list. There are 3.
Yeah.
But that's not Intel's only competition. Intel also has new competition from the reinvigorated AMD, and we will talk about that in just a minute. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Monster Products. The headphones on my head right now, the Monster Elements, available in on-ear, over-ear, and in-ear styles. But you don't just have to have the Elements. There's a whole line of headphones, whether they be on-ear, in-ear, wired, Bluetooth, designed for sport, designed for hardcore music listening. There's a whole line of headphones that are available. Plus, of course, the Bluetooth speakers from the little hotshot to the giant monster blaster, and all of the cables and power supplies to connect them and all of your other devices as well, whether it be your phone and computer or your TV and the home theater system. And it's all available by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/monster. And that music means that it is time for the Pilch Point with online editorial director of Laptop Magazine and Tom's Guide, Avram Pilch. Avram!
Hey!
We should probably warn our new viewers that the internet connection in the studio is weird this evening. I managed to get through the entire promo before Monster's website loaded. So, if we have any weird connectivity issues, don't worry. Everything's okay. The studio is just, falling apart. Anyway, we just talked on the Nifty Gifties about the new Qualcomm-powered Windows computers, but you made a promise for us last week that we were going to get to talk apples to apples, AMD to Intel.
Yes. So, big news. AMD Ryzen Mobile, AMD's new mobile chip for laptops, which is supposed to take Intel 8th generation Core i5 and Core i7 on, and actually lives up to the hype, and in many cases outperformed a similarly spec'd Intel laptop.
Ooh.
Now, this is one laptop, because right now the only laptop that you can get with AMD Ryzen Mobile is the HP Envy X360 2-in-1. Now, supposedly there's an Acer Swift 5 coming out with Ryzen, and there's going to be a Lenovo IdeaPad coming out with Ryzen Mobile, but so far we haven't seen either of those available for sale. So as of a couple weeks, as of the other day, the only one for sale is the HP Envy X360 2-in-1, which comes with both Ryzen 5 and you can get with Core i5. So we got one of each, almost identically spec. The Intel one, for some reason, we could only get it with 12 gigabytes of RAM, while the AMD one had 8 gigabytes of RAM.
Huh.
But they both had 256 gigabyte SSDs and 1080p screens, and were the same laptop. Although the AMD one actually comes in a nicer color. It's like a charcoal color versus a silver. Not char, like a copper versus silver. But anyway, so we took them, we put them through a series of tests. And what we found is, in some cases, the Intel did better, and in other cases, AMD did better. But overall, AMD won more tests, and it massively beat the Intel on graphics. So Ryzen 5 is the equivalent of Core i5. And just like 8th Gen Core, Ryzen Mobile has 4 cores and 8 threads. It uses 15-watt thermal design profile, TDP, just like the Intel chips. And the Ryzen 5 2500U, which is the chip we tested, is very similar to a Core i5 8250U, although the Ryzen chip has a higher base clock speed and a slightly higher turbo speed. Now, on Geekbench 4, which is an overall performance test that measures processing power, Intel still came out ahead by a comfortable margin of like about 12,400 to 9,800. So the higher is better. That one was not close. But on Cinebench, which measures rendering performance, AMD edged out. AMD edged out by about 10%. Was about 10% faster than the Intel Core i5. When it came to doing something single core spreadsheet, when it came to running Excel macro, the two of them were about tied, finishing within 5 seconds of each other. But when it came to video transcoding with Handbrake, again, there was a significant difference. We transcoded a 4K video to 1080p, and the Ryzen chip was about 2.5 minutes faster. Finally, when we started to play games,
2.5 minutes faster on a total render time of how long?
20 minutes.
Okay.
So the AMD finished in 17 minutes and 48 seconds, and the Intel 20 minutes and 4 seconds.
Okay.
So doing the math, that's like what? That's more than 10% difference.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things that involve gaming, that's not even close. And that's because the AMD Radeon, the AMD's processor, their integrated graphics is Radeon Vega graphics are far superior to Intel's UHD graphics. Even when I've talked to Intel, they pretty much admit, listen, AMD's integrated graphics is better. In fact, hasn't Intel basically tacitly admitted that because we heard about that partnership that's supposed to be happening between the two of them, between AMD and Intel, where AMD's to supply the integrated graphics. So, so I think everybody knows because of their heritage owning the Radeon line, AMD has far better integrated graphics, even if you don't, far better graphics, even if you don't have one of their discrete cards.
Right.
So when we played Dirt 3, which is a very low end racing game, which you can run on even, a fairly low end chip, the Intel Core i5 got 27 frames per second. So 30 frames is really what's playable. So it's just below playable. The Ryzen got more than 3 times that, 90 frames per second. So that's like, over 3 times the performance difference. When we played now, unfortunately though, if you're trying to play a game that really demands discrete graphics, this isn't going to get you over the hump.
Sure.
So we played Rise of the Tomb Raider at 1080p, and that's what we consider our budget gaming test, right? Like we use that on low-end laptops with discrete graphics normally. The Core i5 laptop was a slideshow-like 5.7 frames per second. I mean, you might as well just take a screenshot and stare at it, right? The Ryzen 5 was a fast-moving slideshow-like 15 frames per second. So like I said, you're getting better graphics, but they're still not good enough to make this a gaming rig.
Okay.
They're, you know, so.
But the integrated graphics on this are still going to be better than the integrated graphics on its Intel equivalent, seemingly
by a wide margin.
In both tests by about triple.
Yes, it also did better by about 15% on 3D Mark Ice Storm as well. So, you know, no doubt the graphics are better, but for a lot of people that may not matter in the price band and the type of laptop that you're getting, because if you're getting integrated graphics, you're probably not a gamer in the first place. You can't really play games on this anyway.
Right.
So you can play 4K videos on anything. So I don't know if it's going to be performance that most people need, because if you really want to game or you really want graphics might, then you're going to get a discrete card in the first place. But one final thing I'll mention, the battery life was on the two units was within 5 minutes of each other, so pretty much identical.
Okay.
Both of them lasted about 5 hours and 10 minutes. So not good, but not different from each other. So I wouldn't blame the CPU for that. I would blame the rest of the laptop, like maybe the battery is not very large, or the 15-inch screen is eating up a lot of juice or whatever. But obviously the two of them were tied on battery life, at least on this laptop.
Sure.
Now we'll see on other laptops to come. But what that suggests to me is our initial conclusion based on all these numbers is very simple. If you're buying a laptop like the Envy that is available in either flavor, either with Ryzen or Intel, or you're just sitting out there, you want to buy a laptop and the only flavor it comes in is Ryzen, don't hesitate, because the performance should be at least as good as Intel. It may be lesser on a couple of tests, as we saw on the Geekbench test, and also we saw on some app opens, although we don't know how much of that was maybe differences in the SSD, but things were maybe half a second. Things opened maybe half. The three apps we tried multiple times, things opened an average of like half a second faster on the Intel one. Maybe that's within sneezing distance to not matter. I don't know, but it's possible that other factors on the individual laptops play a part there too. So who knows? But we did that because AMD had made some claims originally that look how much faster Ryzen opens things than our last processor, and I was like, I guess it opens apps faster. But anyway, I think the overall message is Ryzen has really leveled the playing field with AMD's really leveled the playing field with Intel. There's not many laptops out there right now that are available with Ryzen Mobile. But if there's one that you're interested in, don't hesitate. It seems that the battery life is the same. This one, by the way, also stayed cool, because we've seen some AMD laptops that got really warm in the past. It stayed cool. It stayed cool throughout the testing. The performance was equal to, within striking distance of, or better than Intel, and much better than Intel on graphics. And as of right now, the AMD version of the NVX 360 is $100 cheaper than the Intel one. So you're paying less for more.
I was trying to look that up myself, but obviously, like we said at the beginning of the show, internet here in the studio is not great today. So I haven't been able to get the price of the Intel one.
That won't always be the case.
Sure.
Right. So I would recommend people to buy whichever is cheaper if you had because I don't think the performance difference is so dramatic that you should pay extra for it. But you certainly shouldn't pay extra to avoid it, right? So during the holiday season, we're in the holiday season, but during like last week, or the week before last when I was starting work on this story, the Intel was actually $100 cheaper than the AMD.
Okay.
Because the Intel was on a sale.
Sure.
So in that case, I would have said, if you asked me, I would have said buy the Intel, because while the performance numbers were a little better on AMD, not so much that a lot of people would notice on this type of laptop
Sure.
and save your $100.
Sure.
You know, so my advice is, all thing else being equal, get whichever one is cheaper.
As of right this second, they actually, on air right now, they appear to be $50 different. But again,
changes every day. Are you looking at Best Buy? Because that's the main place that you would get them.
Okay, I'm looking on HP's website.
HP's website is, does not always have the best prices on these things.
And from second to second, you could refresh right now and it might change.
Anyway, it could be HP website, it could be Best Buy.
Sure.
Anywho, bottom line is, we'll continue to test if we get into more Ryzen laptops. We like to see how Ryzen 7 compares to Core i7, for example. We like to see how this is when it's not on this HP laptop, because I understand this one may actually have more aggressive cooling than I've heard. This one may have more aggressive cooling than others may. So it may actually the AMD chip is made to do higher turbo speeds if it's cooler.
Okay.
If the cooling system is better, they have a feature, I think, called extended frequency range that will do that. So I don't know whether this is actually, we couldn't tell from our test whether this is actually being cooled better. Well, we don't have another one to compare it to either. So
right.
So we'll have to see, But in this limited sample set, this is quite groundbreaking because AMD has been an also-ran in the performance processor space, or really even the mainstream processor space for years. And so AMD has some swagger back, and that's good.
It's definitely good.
They're going to have to get some design wins where they're on laptops that are more impressive laptops than this one, because the NVX 260 was not a particularly exciting laptop. So and the Acer Swift 5, nice budget laptop, but it's not a particularly exciting laptop either.
Right. It could be also that that the manufacturers are being cautious going into AMD laptops, because the AMD laptops have been known to be the bargain basement ones. They were your $200 Black Friday computers in years past, and so AMD is going to have to do something to make it clear we're not the AMD we were 12 months ago when people are buying. So the manufacturers may be going into it cautiously, putting them into some of the theoretically less impressive hardware to begin with, which makes sense, especially when you come to HP, who seems to be the company who's willing to try all kinds of things that nobody else is really willing to jump out and try. So it kind of makes sense that they're being a little cautious on it. So it'll be nice to see this show up on some more computers. I can't imagine that we'll see too much talked about at CES, but possibly at what's the other one? The one that you go to with lots
Computex?
That one will work.
No, I actually think we are going to hear a lot more from AMD at Computex.
That's what I was thinking.
No, I'm sorry, at CES.
Oh, at CES.
I do think we're going to hear, stay tuned, I do think we're going to hear a lot more from AMD at CES.
Okay. Well,
because when they made this announcement, they said, sometime soon you're going to hear about other forms of Ryzen, like, this was only for Ultrabooks, only for like mainstream laptops, but they still have to try and compete they still intend, I think, to try and compete in higher wattage, like in gaming, to take on like Intel's HQ series and HK series processors.
Sure.
So,
okay.
I think we may hear about that at CES. I really do.
Do you think we're going to hear about the processors? Or do you think we're going to see some laptops announced?
Both.
Okay.
I think we will hear about, I honestly, look, I'm not having any information under embargo that I'm hinting at, but
sure.
I think that we will hear about more with the Ryzen mobile chips that exist now.
Okay.
And then I think we will hear about the new CPU.
Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like for the first time in a while, CES is going to be exciting for computer people this year, because it's been a little while since computer people have gotten excited about CES, so much so that Microsoft doesn't exhibit anymore. Like, it's so it'll be nice to see. You know, Lenovo is going to show off their Qualcomm computer, and hopefully AMD and partners will show off some new computers. This will be exciting. You're gonna have your hands full this year. Well, Avram, as always, we appreciate you bringing the really, like, nitty-gritty stuff to us. I know I cannot be the only one who is excited to talk about this tonight. So, as always, thank you.
It's great to see competition. Oh, and I just real quick want to say, if you want to read the whole article, go to laptopmag.com.
Fantastic. I was going to ask you if we could read the whole thing. Fantastic. Okay. Well, I guess as far as this is concerned, we will talk to you next week. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All of the products to enhance your gaming experience, whether it be on PC or console, is available through Razer. And whether you're looking for a new gaming mouse or keyboard or laptop, or you're even looking for a good companion phone to go along with your gaming experience, you can find all of that and a lot of it on special right now. By going to f5live.tv/Razer. All right. A quick follow-up to a topic we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and that is EA. EA launched Star Wars Battlefront 2 a couple of weeks ago to a lot of criticism. And the criticism was over loot boxes and microtransactions, and the idea that it could cost like $5,000 to get all of the in-game content, which, you know, for a video game seems like a tremendous amount of money, and it is. And so just before the game came out, the company decided to pull all of that out of the game and release it without any of the microtransaction concept. Well, in the couple of weeks since we talked about it last, some interesting things have happened. First, I guess we should say that the company said when they made the announcement that that the loot boxes, and microtransactions would come back into the game at some point in the future when the company could figure out how to do it properly. Now, since we last talked about it, some interesting things have happened. First, the online community has been very vocal against bringing back the microtransactions and paid for in-game currency into the game. And second, a number of government organizations have begun to look into the idea of loot boxes, in particular the way that EA implemented them in this game as online gambling, because you pay a real-world amount of money and receive an unknown, potentially worthless collection of things. And so, on an investor call this week, the chief financial officer of the company said, "Over time, we'll address how we want to bring the microtransactions either into the game or not, and what form we will decide to bring it into." That is the first time that EA has even hinted at the idea that the microtransactions would not return to the game. He then went on to say, "Clearly, we're focused on listening to the consumer and understanding what the consumer wants, and that's evolving constantly. But we're working on improving the progression system," which is where the microtransactions really came in. We turned the microtransactions off as an opportunity to work on the progression system inside the game. We're continuing to update that. So they're trying to figure out, from the sounds of it, they are trying to figure out how the progression system within the game will work going forward, likely without the microtransaction concept, because they're getting their name dragged through the mud for the important core gamer. And if a government agency decides that this is online gambling, they'd have to pull it out anyway. So we may not see microtransactions come back into the game, which I think Avram will agree with me on is a benefit.
So here's what I don't understand. Does this mean you pay one price for the game and you are able to get everything in the game?
Not necessarily. There is still a progression system, and as you level up, you get things. It's likely that the end result of how this will work is more like the way that like Overwatch works, where as you progress through the game, they give you the boxes that contain the things that apply to your new status, or they give you the in-game currency, which they already do as it stands now. They give you the in-game currency as you progress, and you can purchase the elements that you want, more like how, say, the racing games, Asphalt, games like that, similar to how that plays, minus the real-world transactions.
But then you still have to, like, where does real-world money come into this, or do you only get money through doing things in the game?
Today, the only way you can get it is through doing things in the game.
So, for better or worse, you don't spend anything except the cost of the game.
Correct.
That seems good to me.
Yeah. You and I have been talking on and off since Nintendo launched Super Mario Jump, or whatever the game was called, that only came with like one level, and then you had to buy additional levels in the game. And you and I have been saying, I would much rather pay for a game and get a game and play it.
But here's the question. Isn't it only gambling if the microtransaction is for a random box of stuff, rather than if the microtransaction is for a specific thing?
That is currently how it works. It is for you would be buying an in-game currency, which then is used to buy a box of unknown contents.
But can't you just pay to unlock? Like, I've had a number of games where it's like, oh, would you like this extra level, or would you like to level up sooner without having to put all the hours in, or would you like to, like Asphalt, would you like this car now rather than having to race like 200 times to get enough credits to get it? Sure, buy credits with real money, but that's not a game of chance, because you know exactly what you're getting.
Correct.
And so,
but that's not how this works.
But why wouldn't they just do that?
That is likely the direction they will head when all of this is done. They made a very last minute decision to pull the the existing concept out of the game, and they lowered all the requirements to earn in-game credits by like 75%, and now they're trying to figure out, well, how do we get back to something similar to our original intent? That's where they are right now.
I understand why it would be viewed as gambling, but on the other hand, if you take that to its logical conclusion, anything where you pay money and you're not 100% sure what you're going to get could be considered gambling.
Right.
Like, if I go to, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, but when I was in Taiwan, this was fun. We went to this mall where they had all these, oh, Gashapon. They had all these like Japanese machines where
Uh-huh.
you put money, you put a token in and it would give you like a little toy would come out,
Yep.
in a little, plastic egg or whatever. Is that gambling because you don't know which toy you're gonna get?
Or
You know?
or the similar machines at the supermarket where you put in a quarter or two and it spits out an egg with a little thing. They're not as interesting as the things that the Japanese machines spit out for sure. But
Yeah.
is that gambling? I don't know.
Right. I mean,
There's definitely a weird thing that's being breached here, but it's existing in a couple of places. Somewhere in Hawaii, some group in Congress, and somewhere else are all investigating it together, or not together, but individually. All three are doing investigations on whether or not this should be considered gambling. So it's definitely bizarre, but I do understand why EA at this point is just like, hold on. We may not get back into that at all. Give us a little bit of time. We've got some new things percolating. So we told you guys that we would be following this one because it is interesting from a number of places. The legal aspect of it, the consumer aspect of it. There's definitely a lot of places where this is interesting. So this will definitely not be the last time you hear about it. Whether or not it'll be on the show or just on the site, I don't know. But we will definitely continue to follow this because it is fascinating on multiple fronts. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Make fun of movies or let the professionals do it for you because that's what they get paid to do. The guys who used to do Mystery Science Theater 3000 are back and doing what they do best, making fun of movies. From blockbusters to Astro Zombies, they've obviously got a little bit of everything. The way it normally works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3 through your phone, on the app, or however, and play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever the movie happens to live, and laugh. From time to time, they change things up and do some live events. The live events for 2017, since the year is almost over, have completed. 2018 has not yet been announced, but hopefully they will do some of the good old MST3K days, which have been some of my favorites. To find out what movies are available and which ones are on special right now, plus, of course, what short films they have riffed, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. You know, some of these promos are difficult without the internet. Anyway, I think when 2017 is complete, we will all remember it as the year of cryptocurrency. It's the year that the public certainly became aware of it. I know we talked to somebody from Bitcoin at CES in like 2011. It's been around for a while, but I think the public has really become aware of it this year, and that could have something to do with the massive spike in value, in particular in the last, let's say, 60 days, where almost exactly 60 days ago today, on October 11th, the value of a single coin was just under 5,000. And earlier this week, on exchange GDAX, the value was just shy of 20,000 per coin, which is a massive value increase just in 60 days. And if you go back not that long, you will find it under $1,000 a coin. And so a lot of people have become aware of it this year. Obviously, with the increase in the value, the idea of an exchange heist was inevitable. And this week we saw one. Obviously, nobody was going to try and go after somebody like Coinbase because too many resources behind the top tier, but a middle tier heist made sense, and so NiceHash was broken into trying to use bank terms because I think it's more fun. They had a data breach, and about 4,700 coins, give or take, were taken. And if you take that top exchange value, it's about $92.5 million worth of Bitcoin was stolen. If you don't know how the exchanges work, essentially, think of it differently from a bank. With a bank, people put money in and take it out or use it to pay others as needed, but they maintain their balance at the bank. In the case of Bitcoin and the exchanges, that's a terrible idea. The only time you ever want to put money into the exchange is when you were trying to exchange it. So in this case, this was all people theoretically in the midst of a transaction who transferred their coin, the ownership of their coins, from themselves to NiceHash, who was brokering a deal, would transfer the money and then pass the cash back to the original and the Bitcoin to the wallet of the new person, who would then hopefully take it out of their online wallet because nothing on the internet is secure. Anyway, that's a lot of money. $92 million stolen all in just one quick. I have not been able to quite figure out if NiceHash is like Coinbase, where the transactions are FDIC insured, because their site's down. And in its place is the press release about, we lost everything. And that's what's up in its place. So the entire service is down. After it happened, the Coinbase service crashed, not because of an attack or anything, but because of people either trying to move transactions over to Coinbase or people trying to get their money out of Coinbase before something happened over there. So their availability was spotty too, which made making transactions very difficult because the largest exchange was mostly unavailable. And because of that, we saw that $20,000 value of Bitcoin drop to less than $14,000 a coin in a single day. Actually, in just a matter of hours.
So I guess that would be a good time to buy Bitcoin.
Indeed. In fact, if you could have gotten onto a service to buy Bitcoin, then yes, most of the exchanges were definitely in trouble. As they came back, and in particular as Coinbase came back up, the value the rest of that day rose back up to about 16. But at one point, it did take a 30% value cut in about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Just, which was obviously that's a huge value hit, and then it gained some of that back later.
It seems like it's very hard for folks, even for me, to understand exactly how the blockchain works. And the blockchain, for those who don't know, is the technology, the concept that undergirds, that supports Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
It's the technology that creates the concept of value.
Right. So I don't totally understand how you create the concept of value for Bitcoin. But here's the problem: almost no stores actually accept Bitcoin for payment.
Correct. Support has come and gone on services. Um, I know Microsoft started accepting it at one point, but I think it went away. Steam accepted it for a while, but as the value became so volatile, especially over the last couple of days, Steam has pulled support for it. So it comes and goes in a weird way. As right now, with it being so obviously volatile in price, going from 20,000 to 14,000 for a single coin in a matter of hours, the idea of wanting to do transactions in Bitcoin is a dangerous one for a retailer in particular. But the idea of doing it as an exchange makes sense. So the value prop is going to change on the front end some, but the back end of the blockchain will continue to have its value.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing for, I mean, we were talking about this at work the other day, and I know a lot of economists and other people have sort of criticized Bitcoin as being kind of imaginary currency, but honestly, if you think about it, all money is sort of based on a conception that, hey, we're going to assign this piece of paper value, we're going to assign Bitcoin value. So other currencies are backed by government, and Bitcoin is not. But I mean, it's all a matter of whether or not people consider it to have value.
Right. It's all about the faith in the issuer at this point. The U.S. currency used to be backed by gold. It's now backed by the faith in the issuer, like most other currencies, and Bitcoin is no different. So,
yeah,
right now there's faith in the issuer. Will that change? I don't know. In researching this story, I read two different articles that were written by experts in the field. One predicted that in 5 years the value of a single coin will be $55,000, and somebody else predicted that in a year it'll have a value of 0. So and they both made good arguments for their points. So I don't know. It all comes down to, can the distributed processing concept maintain its value for those who need the processing, and can paying the people for the distributed processing maintain its faith? That's really where it comes down to. If so, great. If not, if so, maybe you see $55,000 in 5 years. If not, maybe the concept goes away by 2019. I don't know. I know enough. Well, I know a frightening amount about the technology of the blockchain, but from an economist standpoint, I don't know. That's not what I trained for. It's definitely put people like us into a difficult position of talking about economics in a way that we just never prepared ourselves for.
Yep.
We never quite expected a legitimate digital economy and a commodity system based on nothing. And that we would be the go-to people on it. I don't think any of us were ever prepared for that. But it is an interesting technology from a distributed computing standpoint. I mean, we know that distributed computing works. Ask the SETI project, or the the folding at home project out of, I think, Stanford. The idea of distributed computing works, and if you can distribute transactional data and then pay the people who process the transactions for it, it makes sense. But who knows what's going to happen here. I guess the important thing to take away from all of this is, if you're getting into Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the other cryptocurrencies right now, know that you should not store your currency in an exchange. You only transfer what you need to your online wallet so that you can convert it into another currency. Do not leave your currency in an exchange. Transfer it to an offline wallet immediately upon receiving it and keep it there. Put it on a flash drive. Keep it in your pocket. Lock it in a vault. It doesn't matter what you do with it, but for the love of God, do not keep it in somebody's online wallet, because this is what happens. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know you get free shipping, sometimes same day, from Amazon Prime, but what not everybody knows is you get a lot of other really cool stuff included in the service you may already have, including Amazon Prime Music, which has millions of songs available to you for free to stream just about anywhere you are. There's Amazon Prime Video, which Avram and I have talked about a number of times. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there, including originals like The Man in the High Castle, that are available at no additional cost, and you can watch it on your Xbox or PlayStation, on your computer or your phone. There's also Twitch Prime. If you're a Twitch user, you can use a single free subscription every month, which is a really cool capability and a really nice way to support your favorite streamer. And Amazon Prime Photos, which gives you unlimited photo storage and 5 gigs of video storage as part of your existing Prime setup. So if you have a phone and you're not keeping your stuff backed up to another place, OneDrive or iCloud or wherever, take a look at Amazon Prime Photos so that you don't end up with the blue problem that we talked about last week, where everything you have goes away. That's not all. There's a lot of other features available included in your benefits as well, and you can find out about all of those benefits. And if you're not already a subscriber, sign up for a free 30-day subscription by going to f5live.tv/Amazon. Okay. Speaking of Amazon, let's talk about their back and forth tug of war with Google, and the fact that Amazon does not allow a number of Google capabilities on their hardware, and Google seems to and Amazon doesn't allow some of their stuff on Google hardware, and there's been this weird back and forth. You can't Chromecast an Amazon Prime Video. There's been a battle back and forth, and so Google has decided to make the next move in this competition, and that is to pull YouTube support from Amazon products. The Amazon Echo Show is going to lose YouTube support, I think, this coming Tuesday, and January 1st, the Amazon Fire Stick is going to lose YouTube support, and it's because Google claims that Amazon is preventing them from having full support from Amazon, and this is either some sort of negotiation tactic or a retaliation tactic or some kind of something. I don't know if they're trying to be punitive or they're trying to be it's a negotiation. I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting move for YouTube, who is already in the midst of their own internal problems. It seems like a weird time to limit your user base. What do you think, Avram?
Well, I think this is an interesting issue because Amazon is trying. Amazon, it's interesting. Everybody thinks of Amazon as a place where you can buy anything, but there's a lot of things that Amazon either they won't carry or they sort of carry because you can get it through their marketplace, but not necessarily at the latest and greatest prices and things like that. So
and almost certainly not covered by Amazon Prime.
right. So for example, so if I want to get a Chromecast and I go to Amazon and I search for it, I'm looking. I actually don't. I see things that look like a Chromecast and are not. They really look like it, but they're called other brands like Anycast or Crazy for Miracast, or this one actually has a G on it that looks like Google. And it says WeCast E68 Wi-Fi display dongle. But no legit Chromecast. I could get a Roku box.
Yep.
So Amazon is, you might say unfair.
You can't get
unfairly not stocking it.
You can't get a Google Home. When you search for Google Home, the Amazon Echo comes up instead. And Amazon recently pulled the majority of the Nest line as well, which is also owned by Alphabet.
Right. So I can't blame Google for retaliating in this way. I mean, Amazon is not just a store at this point; it's a platform.
Yep.
Right. So they must also
and they compete with Google on a number of fronts. For example, YouTube and YouTube Red and Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, weren't we talking the other day about the horrible kid unfriendly stuff that was that's on YouTube?
Yeah.
And I said, get Amazon free time unlimited for your kids instead.
Right.
Yeah, it's they are competing, but like anything else, when you have a platform, you kind of are supposed to be fair to the competition in some way. And unfortunately, this hasn't been the best situation for Google because they're not selling. Amazon. I mean, there's a lot of people just only buy stuff from Amazon. I mean, there's no reason that you couldn't buy a Google Home from Google.com,
right?
Or buy it from any other retailer like Best Buy or whatever who may be carrying it.
Sure.
But Amazon is its own animal. There are some people who just like to buy things at Amazon.
Yep.
So, and there's a lot of sites that support Amazon by, using their affiliate program. So,
which is also cutting into Google's space. Right.
So, all that being said, yeah, I can't blame it, but of course, who's left suffering? It's the consumer, right? Because if you have a Fire tablet, which is the most popular tablet in America, and I think maybe in the world, but certainly in America, the biggest selling, and especially for kids, but also for adults, you are reliant on the Amazon App Store.
Sure.
So if Google pulls YouTube from there, no YouTube for you.
Right.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah. It's the same, give or take. It's the same negotiating tactic that, say, CBS takes with DirecTV every 3 or 4 years.
I was thinking about that as well. It's the same thing, and just as there's a conflict of interest, right? Because like, Comcast is never going to kick NBC off because they own it,
Right.
right? So Comcast has an interest in people watching NBC instead of CBS anyway.
Uh-huh.
So why should they be nice to CBS?
Sure. That was why I chose DirecTV as my example. There's no merger there yet.
Right.
Yeah,
But
so it's the same kind of thing. In that case, Comcast doesn't have a whole lot of reason to be nice to CBS until CBS flips the table and walks away, and then they have to start talking. Well, Amazon has no particular reason to be nice to Google until Google flips the table and walks away, and then maybe Amazon has to do a panic move as they see people stop using their things or switching. Who knows what the end result is here. But you might see Amazon have to make a panic move before January 1st to keep YouTube on the Fire TV stuff.
Well, this is an interesting question. Do they maybe just not do it? I mean, do they maybe just say, I'm walking away and that's okay, and we don't need to have YouTube on this device?
Could be, especially something like YouTube where you could just fire up the browser and go over to it.
Well, yes, but I don't know if people are going to use a web browser. Is there a browser on the Fire TV? And if so, will it play YouTube?
On the Fire TV, that's a fair question. I don't know the answer to that.
So you're probably not playing YouTube on your TV, but with that. But I have to say that many earlier Roku boxes did not have YouTube, and ones that I owned, and I just got used to not using YouTube on the TV.
Sure.
Maybe, I don't know, I guess people use YouTube in different ways, but I kind of think of YouTube as not like I got to see this on my TV type of experience.
Uh-huh.
It's like, okay, somebody sent me a viral video, or I got to see a trailer, or there's a how-to or a game walkthrough or something.
Uh-huh.
I'll watch this on my phone.
And game walkthrough is my kind of common go-to, and my TV's already busy at that point.
Right. So, so I don't know that I really need YouTube on my TV.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure some people do. It's nice to have, but I need to be able to use streaming services that have legit content on them. TV shows and movies. And,
which of course YouTube wants to be, but they haven't quite nailed that down. YouTube Red hasn't taken off the way they had hoped.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason people go to YouTube is for, user submitted content.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's not the place we get the majority of our views from. Sometimes you do, sometimes. But
no, I mean, please go to YouTube and watch our stuff.
Yeah.
But I just mean, they're not going there to things that you watch on your TV a lot. If you want to watch me on your big screen, please go right ahead. I'd love to hear from somebody who does.
I'm watching you on a big screen right now. Does that count?
Someone who doesn't know me personally and watches my videos either through F5 Live or through the stuff I do for Laptop and Tom's Guide, watches me on their big TV and is not someone who knows me personally. I would love to hear from them. But I kind of think of that kind of thing as something you watch on your computer, or if it's like a tech news or how-to or walkthrough that you watch on your computer or phone.
Right.
But
that's kind of how I see it too.
If your mobile device is a Fire tablet, that's when you're going to have some problems.
Right. Exactly. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they get far enough that they actually have to pull it from the TV. That won't happen until the first of the year. The Amazon Echo show, I think, is supposed to be this coming Tuesday, but that's the second time that they will have pulled it from the Echo Show, and nobody seemed to notice the first time, the 8 or 9 people who own them. I simply don't think that one's going to hit anybody terribly hard, since the screen is basically a phone screen but mounted in place. I can't imagine that one really impacting people, but if it starts coming off of other devices, I think at some point maybe Amazon goes, uh-oh, and starts dealing with it. But you know, it all depends on what it is. If they only threaten to take it off the TV, maybe Amazon goes, no big deal. But if they do threaten to take it off the tablets and stuff like that, at that point maybe Amazon has to address it. So it'll be interesting to see if you, like Avram said, if you use YouTube on an Amazon Fire Stick, or you ended up with one of the Fire TVs with it built in, let us know. Let us know that you're doing it. Let us know what kind of content it is that you watch, because obviously Avram and I have an idea of how YouTube is used, but everybody uses things different, and you may have a use case that we've never thought through. So we'd definitely like to hear from you. And you can find us on social media all over the place. If you're watching the show right now, there's a list of all of our social media right over top of us, over our faces. Let us know how you're using it, because we'd love to hear. I do know that we have some viewers who watch our show on the Tech Podcast app on Roku who have been communicating with us. But if you actually use YouTube to watch us on your big TV, we'd love to hear from you. And that is our show. For those of you who joined us live, thank you very much. We always appreciate our live viewers. If you weren't able to join us, that is okay. In the future, you can join us at f5live.tv/join us. Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, on average. Next week will be normal, and then for about a month, we'll be kind of skewed, and we'll let you know next week what that schedule looks like. We've got the holidays coming up. We've got CES coming up way too soon. We've got the PLUGHITZ Live special events team has a great team, almost exactly the same team we had last year with 2 adjustments. So it'll be mostly a veteran team, which we're really excited about. And Tech Podcast Network is bringing back the live show. So you'll be able to follow along with all of our CES content at f5live.tv/CES. And I imagine laptopmag.com/CES will probably be a thing too. Abram?
I don't know if we're going to maintain a CES. We're going to be doing a lot at CES, but we found that not a lot of people are coming searching specifically for a CES landing page.
Okay.
So our homepage on Laptop Mag and Tom's Guide will be the CES landing page, because that's what we're doing that week.
Got it.
Pretty much nothing but CES.
Even the people who aren't there are writing content for you.
Yes, we have like a few people staying home, and they're gonna write CS stories too. We're gonna, send them information. So, check us out, of course, at laptopmag.com, tomsguide.com. But you don't need to go far. It'll be on our homepage, covering everything.
Very good. All right, that starts in just about a month, which is, oh my goodness. Anyway, so I guess on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next week. Ciao.